Hey guys, I wanted to make a video of this aggressor wing since there's no real information about it. This is the kit. I had installed the electronics that comes with it. Let's just start with the front to back, and I'll flip it over, kind of go through things I've seen. There's a little removable piece here. You can pop off, obviously you can put your camera. I stuck a servo so I can have some pan. There's some intakes here. And what I noticed, there's a hole here that goes all the way through to the other side. And it's interesting because I think something was supposed to go there, but it was a second thought or something. But there's a spot for a servo here and here. And up here is where something would go through that maybe these servos operate. I don't know. There's no instructions on what is supposed to go there. Maybe there were some kind of canards that was used as an elevator or something. I don't know, but I found that interesting. Battery bay is pretty big. This little hatch, you press and it opens. There's no cooling. The only intake I see is these two in the small holes in the front, little hole for the wire for the camera, but there's no other cooling. I don't have a 3D printer, else I would have probably made a nice little scoop, but I just improvised and made my own kind of Naka intake there, which cools down my ESC, which is back in there under this red hatch. But you can see there's plenty of room in there. Now this whole airframe sandwiches itself together. And the videos you can see, I think Andrew was talking about the wings and stuff. There's a big gap here and around where the wings attach to the frame of the body. And I guess, and I use clamps and everything, so it's sandwiched really good. It's just a little off when you stick the wings together. There's a couple notches in there that slide into each other. That's supposed to align the wing, and it does a decent job. But there's still that gap. I really don't know how you could fix that without, I guess, shaving down some of that foam. But you know, it doesn't look terrible. It's people with OCD might not like that at all. The wings do screw on. I can unscrew the wings now and pull them off. They seem pretty tight. I'm not going to be flying any, high G flat spins or something. The wings are going to fly off. So I'm confident that those two screws that it comes with is just fine. These screw on from the bottom to the vertical stabilizers. Okay, so another thing I wanted to point out is the motor that it recommends is a 35-36. Right now I have a 35-42 with a folding prop. Now I guess a 35-36 may be okay, but I really think it's getting really close. It's hitting the back end here, and you might have to use standoffs if you put anything smaller than a 40 millimeter can on there. This one's stretched out a little bit more because the propellers are take up a lot of room right here. So this 35-42 motor seems to be okay. So like a 35-40 should be probably okay. Anything shorter than that, you're going to hit, you'll absolutely hit this back end here. So you might want to pay attention to the motor you get if you get the kit like this one. This hatch is painted red. I just did that because it looks cool. But there's no way to hold it on. I just dabbed a dot of hot glue here, here, and up here. Just a little light drop, and I just kind of stuck it on there. Since there's nothing here there's no stress on that. So I think that'll be okay. Let's see. Another thing that I was looking for information on is reflex. This airplane does not need reflex. It's got some built into it, but as far as you look at like AR wings, you'll see a couple millimeters of positive reflex here, but these are all zeroed out, which is neat. So that'll help in the build process. You do have the option to put two twins on here, twin motors. It does come with covers if you do not. I guess you could do that. I'll flip the wing over in a little while so you can see what's under there. I chose not to do it. But it does come with the wood blocks and another foam thing that you could clamp on there if you wanted to do that. Okay. Underneath, they have these, they're foam skids, I suppose, slash launch handle. And it comes with these little pieces of plastic, and they're super smooth on both sides. So if you glued them on, they're just going to pop off. So I roughed them up with some sandpaper and epoxied them on. And then I just stuck some packing tape over the top while the glue dried. I just kept them on because they don't, you don't see them. So eventually I'm sure they'll wear off if I landed on some really hard concrete or something. But for now, they seem to be okay. It comes with these little plastic pieces to hide. This is where your ESC would go if you put the motors up on the nose here. These, it says it calls for 9-gram servos. These are 12-gram, the Emax digital Metal Gear. They're the same size, and it looks like you could put a taller servo in there that's all filled in with the hot glue. And you know, it looks like you could put a little bit larger servo in there. It does come with the ball joints. It has 2 openings on each wingtip to put VTX or whatever you want in there. In this case, I put my antenna, and on the other end, I put my crossfire diversity on there. Ran an extension down into this bay, and there's a hole inside this opening that you can shove all your wires into the back. The carbon fiber reinforcements for the elevons they're just laying in the box, so you gotta. I think I used some CA glue and just dripped it down in there and stuck it in there. It was a nice tight fit. These are also held on by whatever, they're loose, so you got to stick them in there. I used epoxy because I don't trust CA, especially on this, and I kind of don't really trust hot glue to hold that in, especially on a hot summer day here in Arizona. It does have the handhold thing right here for you to launch, and I think on Ali's video he said he'd like to move it a little bit further because of the batteries are heavier. That would be cool, except if that did happen when you land, it'd probably end up scraping the back because it's so nose heavy. But whatever, it still works just fine. Another thing I noticed, this motor I stuck on there was pulling a lot of current. I don't think it's because of the prop. I think it's just because it's got a really high wattage motor. So I ordered another motor. It's the same size, but it was like a 475 watt motor. This is like a 800 or 900 watts. So I was flying right around 12 to 15 amps, I think, just cruising, which was crazy. So I'll flip-flop the motors when that gets here. But folding prop definitely is cool. It recommends a 10-inch prop. This is a 10.6, and that would definitely, if this was not foldable and you landed like that, it'd probably rip off this firewall right here, and to re-put it in you'd really have to dig all that stuff out, and I don't like flying ugly airplanes. So I think this whole prop setup was less than $10 for the 2 props and the hub in the middle. So you might as well just go ahead and get that. The plane flew very well, actually. Of course, it was my maiden flight today, so I was a little nervous about it not flying. But it did okay, minus all the amps it was pulling. But it's very stable, it's big, and it's slow. So if you're one of those guys that like to go fast, this is not the plane for you. I'm sure you could probably put a big, fat, beefy motor on there and some huge batteries, and it'll go pretty quick. But the way it's designed, seems like the plug-and-play version is definitely a cruiser. It does look pretty cool. It's a very big airplane. I mean, it's only 1,000 millimeters or something, but it just looks massive. But it fits in the back of my van just fine. Another thing I want to note, inside here where I ran these wires, there's some indentations where I think a carbon spar would go, like one of those flat stock carbon spars, just to kind of reinforce this nose. But I really honestly don't think that would do any justice, because the whole thickness of this fuselage is all foam, and sticking a little carbon spar in there probably wouldn't. I mean, I'm sure it'll help a little bit, but, and you can do that if you wanted to, but it does not come with those carbon spars. So that's something to think about. The pieces of wood that go in here, you can see my screw. That screw holds on the wing. And if you buy the kit, these pieces of wood are not glued in. So you need to pay attention that this hole lines up with the receiving blind nut on the wing. And you can just do that by eyeballing it, looking down in there when you're putting it all together. But if that doesn't line up, there's no way you're going to put that screw in there to the wing, because there's about, I don't know, 3 or so inches of space that needs to go all the way through to that blind nut. So pay attention to that too. As far as the foam, it's the nice shiny stuff. It comes with some stickers. I didn't like them. They're kind of hokey looking, so I just left most of them off. I guess if you have any questions, you can leave me a comment, and I'll do my best to answer it. And since there's no information on this airplane at all, but if you're thinking about buying one, go ahead and do it. It flies really, really good. Once I get that motor changed, I'm sure the efficiency will be probably 100% better. And then I plan on loading this thing up with batteries. Today I flew it with a 4S. It was a 4S 4000 with that motor I showed you. And I got 10 minutes, and I landed right around 3.9 per cell. So I guess if I would have flew it to its potential of that battery, you know, I would have got a few minutes more. But again, you can load that thing up with batteries and put a more efficient motor than I got. You should be half hour plus. But you can see there's lots of room in there. That's a Maytech F411 wing. So it's not the big flight controller, but it's, you can put whatever you want in there. Pixhawk. That's my video transmitter. And, you know, you could put that on the end of the wing if you wanted to, but it fits in there. And when I cut out my cooling hole, I suppose it keeps it nice and cool. My OSD said it was 94 degrees inside there while I was flying, and outside temperature was right around 87, I'd say. So it wasn't too hot in there. And yeah, these straps are kind of cheesy. You can see that they're kind of fraying and falling apart. You do have the option to, if you glue this piece of wood incorrectly, you can snake another nicer strap in there. Looks like there's plenty of room to do that. So lots of things could be done to this plane. But take your time when you sandwich this all together. Make sure you use a glue that doesn't dry too quickly, like the UHU glue, or 30-minute epoxy is what I used. So you have plenty of time to smash it all together, because there's little pieces on the top that mate to pieces on the bottom. You want to get those all lined up all throughout the whole fuselage area. And then once it's all clamped together, I think I had this upside down, and I stuck a bunch of stuff on top of it, some boxes full of heavy things, just to kind of keep it pressed down. And there was a couple small parts that I had to put a clamp on, just to keep it all sandwiched together nice and straight. So, well, any questions, let me know in the comments below.